was gonna say, there's like only so many places that have like famous ancient tombs. I figured it was Egypt. Hello, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's Diana. Don't go outside. Don't go outside! It's scary out there. They say touch grass. Don't touch the grass. It's a lie. It's fake. The grass is a lure. And they would, if you go outside, you will burn. I would never. It's too hot. So true. Ugh. People are like, but it's like, you know, I can understand, like, you know, some people do enjoy the sunshine and they need a little bit of that sunlight. I go to the store for 5 minutes, and on my way there, excuse me, I'm a little congested as well. You gotta love that, but yes, so on my way, I don't know if it was dirt or something, but something hit me in the eye. And I'm like, I don't know. Shit doesn't hit me in the eye in winter. Not only is it hot, now I'm like walking with one eye closed. I thought eyelashes were supposed to keep stuff out of your eye. What are my eyelashes doing? Put some eye drops in, it's fine now, but I'm like, oh my god. Why did I leave the house? I hate it here. I hate it here. Went outside to walk your dog. A Mario Desert theme plays. So true. No, wait, that's the water, isn't it? It has been so long. Hold on. I'm second guessing myself now. I'm like, wait, is that the desert theme? I know the water in the sky one pretty well, though I sometimes confuse them, but. Da 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 da. Oh, it's this one. Right on. Where is my music so I can... There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. It's hot as balls out there. Don't go outside. Paid for by Ranger? Gosh, I don't think you were here. The one time, what is it? Yes. What is it? I had, I think a week or so that I decided I was like just gonna play something different, so we played platformers for the whole week. So I did indeed play through, was Mario 1, 2, 3? Not like to completion, obviously. But I did play 1, 2, and 3, and Yoshi's Island. My skill level increased exponentially when we got to Yoshi's Island, because that's the one I played a ton of when I was little. Think you were there for Super Mario World, but that's it. Fair enough. that was also around the same period of time I tried to play OG Ocarina of Time, and I realized that now that Ocarina of Time was never meant to be played on a high-definition monitor. So seeing Link run through like pre-rendered backgrounds in Castletown was somehow tripped my what's the word I'm looking for? My motion sickness, that's it. And I'm like, oh god, what a, uh-oh. I did mention to a dude, it's like, maybe I could just provide some commentary and you can navigate, because she doesn't get the motion sickness from Ocarina of Time, and she's like, done. I'm like, great, now that's another thing we have to try and coordinate. Didn't watch many streamers back then, so I would consistently disappear. Hey, fair enough. Look, to be fair, you got a lot of stuff going on. The rest of us are like, yeah, we don't have a life. You got school, you got work, you got chess. Potentially many other obligations. I'm sure you occasionally hang out with friends. Speaking of, did you have like a field trip recently? I hope you had fun. Was that yesterday or was that today? I've lost track of the days. I can't keep anything straight. Send help. Help. Also, hi, Zon. I don't know if I said hello to you. I was in the middle of like a yapping rant. Yesterday, nice! I hope it was a good time. There's not a ton of stuff in my town to do. Though we're supposed to go to me, Iduna, and her partner are supposed to go to the big city in August for the adult concert. So Diana, Iduna is like, we're going to the aquarium. I'm like, okay. You saw a rocket, that's cool. Those are always so interesting because it's like, yeah, here's the giant freaking rocket. And then the shuttle's just this itty bitty little thing attached to it. It's like, damn. Really shows how much effort you gotta put in to achieve escape velocity, as they call it. The planet's like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Planet's like, you're supposed to stay. Go to your room. Astronauts are like, nah, man, you can't stop me. I wanted in, but they said no. I don't think it's part of the exhibits, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I swear there was a place somewhere that used to have a replica of the interior of the space station. So maybe that was just on a show. And I'm actually crazy. Hold on one sec. I gotta blow my nose. They are building one you could enter? Ooh, nice. Gosh. Another reason to hate the summer, I had a really cold drink before stream. Excuse me, to help cool down. But now I'm congested. Because I cooled myself down a little too much. Like, great. Too hot, I'm too cold. It's freaking Goldilocks in here. Where is the perfect middle? It doesn't exist. It don't exist. Rest in pieces. Oh god, that's right. They shut the water off in my building to do maintenance today, and I forgot. I forgot they were gonna do that. So at 9 a.m. I'm like, oh no. Like, I don't have any water. I haven't washed my face. Just leave me here to perish. I am full of regret and everything else. Why am I here? Why have I been put on this planet? Just to suffer? I'm being very dramatic, but yes. You're gonna build a spaceship and call it MB Moonbeam Shuttle, and we shall explore the cosmos. Oh, I would love that. That would be nice. That would be nice. Why does that make me think of like Neon Cat? Remember that video where it's like a cat in a Pop-Tart running through space? Gonna be real cold though. Oh, so true. The Pop-Tart, yes. Just reminds me of that episode of the Magic School Bus talking about cold. Is this some kind of weeb channel? Gasp. Whoops, hold on. UMINEKO. UMINEKO. I forgot to turn off the desktop audio. And then there's also the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged version. The Yeah Cat. Or Yeah Joey. And hello, Jambola. Welcome in. I was just complaining about the curse of living in a place where it gets warm. I don't want this anymore. I was too hot, so I had a shower. And then I had something cold, really cold to drink. And now I seem to have caused the opposite problem, where I'm triggered by sinuses, and now I sound stuffed up. Terrible. There's no winning. There's no winning! So I'm here with like a cardigan to like try and help ward myself back up so I stop sounding congested. Terrible. The heat sucks, it does. I'd say let's go into the UMINEKO verse, because it's October. In the game, but, considering everything that's going on, probably don't want to be there. You like the heat except super sweaty palms? Yeah, but you're in, Ireland doesn't really get that warm from what I know. Like, it can get warm, but, like, heat stroke level for you guys is, like, 30 Celsius. It was almost 40 Celsius here today. It's all relative, of course. I'm just saying your hot is not really hot. Or at least to most of us. How am I doing? Not bad, not bad. Not bad, not bad. Somewhere out there is a man complaining about the 2-degree heat wave. Wrong person. You just wanted to see You just wanted to see him so bad. Just so bad. The partner in crime. But I'm doing pretty good. Like I was just explaining, it's really hot here. And I had something really cold to drink to help cool down, but it seems to have caused my sinuses to act up, so now I sound congested. There's no winning. You've been a lot nicer and tame. That's the Diana effect. I have legitimately had friends who have been super aggro, and just by hanging out with me, they mellow out. It's the Diana effect. The same way I can put you guys to sleep. Just send me in on the diplomatic missions. I just have to sit in the room for a couple hours. And then everyone will stop yelling. Everyone will stop yelling at each other. If only, huh? If only I just had to sit there with, like, you know, that anime aura where they're just so soft and beamy. There's, like, flowers coming off them. Only happened twice in your defense, and it was... Hey! Twice in... I think it's happened twice to most people. Falling asleep to TV while she gives me subliminals to watch certain. Oh no. They figured it out. That's how I got them into Prince of Tennis. It's funny though, because y'all have fallen asleep, like, just in general, Moonbeams have fallen asleep on stream enough times that I'm like, chat's really quiet. Either I'm doing a really bad job and everyone's effed off, or everyone has fallen asleep. Because it's like, chat just immediately drops off. Or not like immediately, but like, you know, just out of the blue. Like, everyone's talking and then it's just, and I'm like, And then when I say goodnight, or it says goodnight back, I'm like, oh yeah. They're all asleep. It's like when you're a kid and you fall, like you pass the F out in the middle of getting a story read to you. You're not doing a bad job? Oh, I know. I know. I'm just saying, usually when like chat goes super quiet, and especially when no one says goodnight back to me, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys fell asleep. Also watch frequently in bed from your iPad. Oh, yeah, that'll do it as well. Truly, it's a dangerous game. I love it, because, yeah, Zexiu's been like, I'm just gonna lurk and go to bed. I'm like, okay, bye. Like, you know what? If you've got insomnia and you come here because I put you to sleep, I understand. I'm honored. Saying the goodbye is generally essential. Correct. Very rarely do you guys never say bye unless you've fallen asleep. Or yeah, or you stepped away from the computer. Like, how dare you? I'm also like that though. I'll often just like quietly exit a stream. Unless like, you know, there's not a lot of people chit-chatting. Then I'll at least say bye usually. But if like chat's hopping and I just need to go, I'll just like quietly exit. Like, there's a good vibe happening here. There's no need for me to, like, throw things off by announcing I'm leaving. But if I've been the main person yapping away in chat, I'm like, I should probably say something. Everybody needs to know I'm leaving. We must make it about me! And oh my god, sniper. It's pretty rare that you guys get to see very briefly the message before the bots take them out. Today it happened. Today we saw them. They did not make it. Did not make it. Sayonara, bye-bye. Please take care of yourself. Cause we've been here together, we're still different people, but we're not alone. Sayonara, bye-bye. Yu Yu Hakusho. You see all of them? Ranger's got he's got the Prince of Tennis eyes. His ability to see moving objects is unparalleled. Faster than a speeding bullet? Not to Ranger. To Ranger, it's all slow-mo. Alrighty. We've been yip-yapping. Let's get this going. I can continue to yip-yap as well, but... warm up. It is time for the Ka-Ka mother effers. Will we ever see the seagulls again? Probably not. Rest in peace, the gulls. Moving at Mach 10? Nah, moving an inch per second. There was an anime movie called 5 centimeters per second. Because that's like apparently the speed at which cherry blossom petals fall. And so it was an anime about, like, you know, the pace of life and stuff like that. So, moving an inch a second? Nah. 5 centimeters per second. Because 5 centimeters would be just shy of 2 inches. Hang on, where's chat? There you guys are. You're kind of hiding back here. There we go. Alright, one nose blow for the road. I'm getting quite the collection of tissues here. Bleh. Though I feel like I'm starting to sound less congested, so hopefully that's the end of it. Alright, now let's see here. January 8th. January? June? I'm just so desperate to go back to winter. There we go. Now who's gonna die tonight? We will find out. Hi, Ava. It's going well. It's going well. Welcome in. The sound of rain. Goodbye. Hey, speaking of Ava, there's a character named Ava. The guest room Ava and Hideyoshi moved into had originally been built to house guests before the guest house construction. So until a few years ago, they had stayed in these rooms every family conference and were very familiar with them. Yes. The two single beds. Gotta leave space for God. Game might be just a tad loud. Okay. How's that? Better? Oh, second playthrough of The Evil Within. Uh-oh. Congratulations on all of your trophy runs. Yahoo! This room was just like a room at a hotel with a bedroom and a bathroom. So even though they were still shut in, it was far more comfortable than the parlor. Can really hear the difference. The rain is really loud. Yeah. They're just trying to authentically replicate what it's like to be indoors during a typhoon, you know? Guess it's true, you can relax more when you're alone with your family. I guess this is before having multiple audio settings for effects and music. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't give that degree of options. Yeah, they don't even give anything, really. Like, there might be some options on the title page, but that's it. Which is funny because so many visual novels now, they have toggles for everything. Like, every single character has their own, like, toggle. Like, you wanna make this character completely silent because you don't like their voice? Done. Excuse me. Guess it's true you can relax more when you're alone with your family. Assuming you get alone with your family? Accounting for every possible complaint, literally. It was just funny because when I was playing one Kakuyaku Kitsetsue, yeah, like every single character has like a multitude of audio options. I'm like, wow. I mean, I liked the first Evil Within. I didn't like the second one. Don't ask me why I didn't like the second one compared to the first. I think just because the first had a much better mystery. I think because you didn't really know what was going on. In the second one, you know how the memories and mind and all that stuff works, so it's not as interesting. It's just straight up action at that point. Maybe it'd be better if everyone else also shut themselves in guest rooms and locked the doors. Natsuhine-san said that no one could leave the parlor throwing her weight around. I'm sure no one will be able to talk back. She's always been treated so coldly, so now that Nissan's dead, she's getting excited about finally having so much power. Well, no, they can't do... Of course they can't do the same trick twice. I'm just saying that without the trick, the Evil Within doesn't really have a lot of substance, unfortunately. Also, the fact that they didn't, like, continue the story with Leslie, like the one boy and, like, what was his name? Rudavin or whatever? Like, they leave the first game on a cliffhanger, and then they're like, yeah, we're not touching this storyline. Like, why? That's like doing Resident Evil without Wesker. Why would you do that? You can't do Resident Evil without an Umbrella. Seriously, how shameless can she be? Pot calling kettle black there, Ava. Come now, don't say that. Natsuki-san's doing pretty well. No need to jump on her like that. And about that receipt earlier, you went too far. Yes, I realize they haven't done Resident Evil with Wesker as much, but Umbrella's still around. Resident Evil 7 was like a rare exception where they had a new cast and stuff and it was really good. Resident Evil 8 was a hot mess. Don't know how 9's gonna go, but hey. Are you saying Resident Evil 6 is bad? Okay, you might have a point there. Yeah, Albert Wesker died in a volcano in Africa while Macho Man Chris threw boulders at him. Rest in pieces. I mean, yeah. But what good moment does not a good game make? At least for me, anyway. I'm super judgmental of my horror games because I hold them to such high standards. Though at this point, Resident Evil doesn't qualify as a horror game anymore. It stopped being that, like, after, 2. Oh god, don't talk to me about Outlast 2. I'm still depressed over that one. It had some good potential, and then it just dropped the ball somewhere along the way. Which is too bad, because the Whistleblower DLC, for one, was fantastic. But yeah, don't talk to me about Outlast 2. I was so excited. Ugh. Come on, if I hadn't said it there wouldn't be another good time to say it. Ava, sulking cutely and looking at the television, sat alongside Hideyoshi, who was lying on the bed. Sulking cutely. I guess, alright. That's the description we're gonna use here. Maybe it's from Hideyoshi's point of view, in which case, finding his wife attractive would be a good thing. No! Rubik was gonna be in a third one and then the studio closed. Yeah! They should have made The Evil Within 3, The Evil Within 2. Oh well. Still, we haven't been alone like this for quite some time. Suddenly we're a fly on a wall for a couple moments. You're right. Come to think of it, both you and I have gotten pretty old. Since George was born, everything's gone by in the blink of an eye. Learn his lesson with Wesker? I mean, Wesker only showed up in every other Resident Evil game, so it wasn't that often. But they kind of needed to set up a big bad to keep a series like that going. And they did really do that in the evil within one except for Rubik. Like, there's a little bit of the whatever organization put them in there, but... It really has. I wonder if we were too hasty at having a child. Whoa! Now's not the time for regrets. Ava's eyes looked like they were staring off into the distance. Yes, she had thought of it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Oh, you gotta love using children as leverage. Her older brother Kraus had been unable to father a child for quite some time. 6 years passed after his marriage to Natsuki without any signs of pregnancy, which didn't please Kinzo at all. How is fertility troubles their fault? It's the 80s too, there's literally nothing you can do. The music's really nice, yes. Perfect for talking about family drama. Ava herself had thought that, since her name would be moved outside the Ushinomiya register when she got married anyway, it didn't matter whether a successor to the headship was born or not. And then, one day, she had a heavenly revelation. Or maybe it was the whisperings of the devil that had listed into her grade. If she could give birth to a successor first, wouldn't she be able to remain in the Ushinomiya register? If things went well, might she have a chance to inherit the Ushinomiya family herself? When she proposed this to Hideyoshi, he had approved of it instantly. Great! Power hungry. Layers of Fear has done pretty decent. I know that's not Amnesia, but that just reminded me. This wasn't because Hideyoshi also had greedy thoughts. For Hideyoshi, who had no close relatives, it was a chance for him to feel once more the long-forgotten thing called family. So when they got married, he hadn't fussed over which last name they were to keep, and had quickly agreed to have his name entered into the Ushinomiya family register. It hadn't been easy to persuade Kinzo, but as his daughter, Ava knew Kinzo's personality well. So by choosing the time when Kinzo was most dissatisfied with Natsuki, she was magnificently able to make him accept Hideyoshi as an adopted son-in-law. Looking at Hideyoshi, who had achieved success after starting from nothing, Kinzo might have seen a little bit of himself. He quickly grew to like Hideyoshi and approved his transfer into the Ushinomiya register. George would eventually become the successor to the Ushinomiya family. They had raised him strictly with that purpose in mind. He had been worth their while and had grown into a fabulous young man who wouldn't disappoint no matter where he went. That was why he had not been permitted to fall in love with a servant like Shannon. So when she learned that Shannon was dead and the engagement was now invalid, though part of her had still been shocked by the gruesome crime, part of her had also been relieved that her dear George wouldn't be stolen by some servant girl. Damn! Her son's just her property. I have hated Kraus Nissan since long ago. He was so full of himself, always swaggering around. So proud that he would one day become the head. So I wanted to get back at him. Was that just a childish emotion? But in the end, that emotion guided my entire life. If that had been all, then it would have been fine. But because of that emotion, I got you and George involved. I used you. Ava, don't blame yourself for that. Hideyoshi got up and held Ava's shoulder. She could feel a warm understanding from him. Well, I reached the halfway point in my life long ago. So they're in their 40s, which makes sense when you have a 23-year-old. Even if they had him at like 18 or something like that, they would still be 40 if he's like 23. I have absolutely no regrets about how I lived my life. Not one. I think that since I've been with you, Ava, I've been able to relish an enjoyable life that other men never will. After I lost my relatives in the war, you reminded me what the warmth of family was. Oh, God. I guess... Yeah... I guess he would have been quite young when the war happened, but... Because if this is in the 80s and he's 50, he would have been like a young child. Oof. So I'm grateful to the Ushinomiya family and think of it as my only one. In this life I've led with you, not a single thing's been wasted. It's really been a fun life up till today. Why are you triggering all these death flags? Stop! Thank you, darling. Ava hung her head, burying her face in Hideyoshi's chest. Probably no one in the parlor could even imagine that this side of Ava existed. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Until today, there hasn't been a single day I've regretted being with you. Until today. You're supposed to say up till now? Because saying until today implies that today is different. Me too. I'm so glad to have you by my side. George is already a fine adult, even if I don't look out for him. He's a man who could do his job well on his own. I wonder, around New Year's, do you want to go spend some time in the Maldives? Just us? No one else? No way! Aren't you always saying that you're so busy responding to New Year's cards that you don't even sleep? None of that this year's. I won't read New Year's cards. I'll just stay quiet and check to see if I've won the New Year's lottery. It should be nice if we won a color TV this year. No way! I don't want to waste time checking the lottery while in the Maldives. Then none of that either. How does it sound? Just the two of us, taking it easy like when we were newlyweds? Just before George was born? Yes, in that case, fine. I hear the Maldives are wonderful. An island with nothing on it, surrounded by beautiful coral reefs and cottages lined up over the water. Like when we were newlyweds, you say. Starting when? As soon as I finished up some business. I won't know till I ask the travel agency, but probably before New Year's Eve. No way. Right now. I want to go right now. Ava nagged at his lips in a peevish yet flirtatious manner. The only sounds that filled the room were the distant voice of the announcer on the news, which Hideyoshi had left on, and the obnoxious pounding of the rain against the window. Wow, 50-year-olds have a sex life. That's crazy! I was gonna say, who the heck is pounding on the door? There was a knock on the door, and Genji-san entered. The two of them going at it after half of their family is murdered is crazy. True, there's, oh god, what was it called? There was like a fanfic tag that used to be popular. It was like, comfort spot, something like that. where, like, you know, the smut was like, oh God, oh my God, we're alive, I love you. Maybe that's what they're going through. There was a knock on the door, and Genji-san entered. Also, hello, Bedwards. Welcome back. Welcome in. Madame, dinner has been prepared. Will you eat in here again? Yes. Have it brought here. Is Dr. Nanjo still in the kitchen? Yes. That old hurt comfort tank. Yeah, you know which one I mean. Yes, he has said he wishes to carefully deliberate over his next move. Do not worry, he is with the other servants. Genji-san's good enough at chess to be grandfather's opponent. I hear he's even better than Dr. Nanjo, right? That's right. Long ago he played against me, but he must have let me win. Maria, sounds like it'll be time to eat soon. But look at you, you've been watching TV all day long and you still haven't gotten bored. Ugh. I'm always watching TV, so I'm fine. Ugh. No socializing with Mom, I guess. Huh. Maria-chan sure is a TV kid. Food's coming, so we have to clean up the table. Earlier, we had towards several pages out of Maria's notebook. And there was now a mess where everyone had been drawing together. Jessica began cleaning that up quickly. Still, everyone here really can draw. I never guessed. Genji, ask Ava-san and Hideyoshi-san whether they'd at least like to have dinner with us. Although they will probably turn us down. Certainly. First Father, and now Ava-san. It's quite hard to gather everyone to the Ushiromiya dinner table. Natsuki felt her headache start throbbing again and lightly held her temples. The distance from the kitchen to the parlor wasn't that great, so Genji had gone and come back by himself. But the guest room was a little farther away. Natsuki had warned him to avoid being alone whenever possible, and just now, Nanjo had also admonished him, saying it would be better if he held a little more concern for his safety. Kanon accompanied Genji, and the two of them went to visit Ava and Hideyoshi in their guest room. Hopefully, they don't hear anything from the hallway. Genji knocked on the door. Ava-sama, Hideyoshi-sama, dinner has been prepared. He waited a short while for them to come out, but there was no response. Genji-sama, look at this. Uh-oh. Genji pointed under the door. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Like I said, they were triggering all these death flags. Uh-oh. A Western envelope had been inserted under it. Normally, when something was inserted this way, it'd be interpreted as a message from someone outside to someone in the room. So, since this might be a private note meant for Ava and Hideyoshi, it was not something that Kanon and Genji were supposed to take interest in. But this Western envelope was one of Kinzo's, the same kind as the one Maria had taken out last night and surprised everyone with. Oh, the courier! The courier! There could be no mistake. It was one of the master's envelopes. Or could it be? Even though this was one of Kinzo's envelopes, the letter Maria read aloud the previous night hadn't come from Kinzo. Excuse me, oh my goodness. Ruining everyone's immersion. The fear's making me sneeze. I would be terrible in a zombie apocalypse. Genji continued knocking a little harder and called out in a loud voice. Ava-sama! Ava-sama! It's Genji! Are you there? Please answer, Ava-sama! There was no response from inside. Sometimes when the servants went to call guests for a meal, the guests would be sleeping so deeply that they wouldn't wake up. Times like that, the servant would stick a letter in the door to show that it was time to come out and leave the guest be. But despite that, Genji beat harder on the door and called out Ava's name. However, there was no answer. Kanan stuck his ear up to the door, held his breath, and listened for any sounds coming from inside. I hear something that sounds like the television, but I don't sense anyone. The room might be empty. Genji took out a handkerchief and, careful not to touch it with his bare hands, gently pulled out the envelope that had been stuck under the door. It was sealed with deep red sealing wax. Without a doubt, the mark on the sealing wax had come with the Ushinomiya family head's ring. Ava-sama! Ava-sama! Please answer! Are you still in your room? There was no answer. There was a chance that you were aimlessly walking around the mansion. This was the home that Ava had grown up in. There was plenty of reason to think she had gone out on a casual stroll. Taking a walk in your house is a crazy concept. But I guess when it's this big a place, Genji groped around in his pocket and pulled out a bundle of keys, which contained the key that would open the guest room. Genji-sama! Kanan also understood what this meant. They would sometimes unlock the doors so they could go in and do things like make the beds, but only after they made sure the guests were out. To unlock the door for any other reason, and especially to do so when there was a chance the guests hadn't given permission and might still be in there, was an action unbecoming of a servant. God forbid someone's having a heart attack or something. It's like, well, you didn't say to come in, so what was I supposed to do? God, that reminded me of one time, I was at a friend's place, like we were having like a bonfire or whatever. And they had slipped and they had actually passed out in the bathroom. And we heard the bang and like, I was like, someone go in there. And everyone was like, no, like, we gotta respect his privacy or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I get it. He's probably naked and that sucks. But if he dies, then what the frick does it matter? Someone go in there. Like, they'll be upset, but at least they're alive. Genji had decided. If the only problem had been that his knock hadn't received a reply, he wouldn't have gone this far. But the envelope under the door was doubtlessly one of Kinzo's. Or rather, one of the western envelopes of the Ushinomiya family head. After last night, the sender of this envelope could be someone other than Kinzo. If this letter had been sent by someone else... Ava-sama! My apologies. Allow me to enter your room. After giving that final notice, Genji stuck one of the keys from the bundle into the keyhole. There was the sound of the door unlocking. And after slowly turning the knob, he slowly started opening the door. Light seeped through the crack of the door. Were they in the room? Or had they forgotten to turn out the lights? There was the sound of the door chain being pulled tight. The chain had been secured. The chain couldn't be secured from the outside, so it also proved that they were in the room. The sound of voices on the TV seeped out of the room. The lights, the chain, and the TV. All of these things made it clear they were in the room. There was no sign of them. Dun dun dun! What a time for ad break. Since it's a text-based game, y'all should be able to at least still read it while, like, the ads are up. Fingers crossed. Genji called to Ava once again through the crack of the door. But there was no answer. Genji-sama? What should we do? As part of their job, servants were able to unlock almost any lock in the mansion. They had no way to open a door with a chain. Y'all just aren't creative enough. I mean, you can. If you hit the door with enough force, the chain will get ripped off. Also, if you're clever enough, you can reach in and unlock the chain. The only way to get by the chain was to cut it. This was certainly not permitted as part of a servant's usual work. A creepy chill had already rushed up their backs. Canon held his breath again and tried to send someone through the door. But even so, he was not able to sense anyone. I will call Madame in return. Kanan, cut the chain. Yes! As Kanan hurried away to get a cutting tool, Genji called him to a stop. Wait, Kanan! Return to the kitchen and take Kumasawa with you. You must not act alone. Yes, certainly. It looked like Kanan was wondering if I had to do something so troublesome in the middle of this urgent situation. But Genji had said it out of wariness. He didn't care what happened to himself. But in the worst case scenario, he didn't want anything to happen to Kanan. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was piling food on the serving cart. And Nanjo was waiting for Genji, apparently wanting to show him a move he'd finally thought of that might turn the tables on him. But Genji's appearance immediately told him that something was wrong. Oh, what's happened, Genji-san? Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. But please allow this match to be suspended for the time being. Kanan, take care of the chain. Kumasawa, stop setting up dinner for now and accompany Kanan. I will go over to the Madame. You would come with me, Dr. Nanjo. Has something happened? Genji took Nanjo, who still didn't know what was going on, and quickly left the kitchen. Kumasawa-san, my apologies, but please come with me. What's happened, Kanan-san? Kumasawa said almost exactly the same thing as Nanjo, unable to take in the situation and chased after Kanan, who had flown out into the hallway. Taking Kumasawa with him, Kanan went to her storage room and looked through the tools packed in toolboxes and hanging all over the walls. trying to find something that could be used to cut the chain. What are you looking for? Let me help too. We're cutting a door chain. Where was that large wire cutter? A door chain? Why would you do something like that? To chain Ava-sama and Hideyoshi-sama's room. Even though they should be inside, they didn't answer when we called them. It took Kumasawa some time to figure out how cutting the chain and Ava and Hideyoshi not answering were connected, but she didn't realize that this was an urgent situation. That one will probably do the trick. Kanon took down a very large wire cutter that had been hanging on the wall. It was called a cutter, but maybe it'd be easier to understand if we said it was shaped like a large pair of pliers. I mean, that is what a wire cutter looks like. Kanon remembered once being warned that this dangerous tool could easily cut through one of your fingers. Kanon took that and rushed up the stairs. He already knew instinctively. He should fight for every minute, every second to open it quickly. Or perhaps it was already. Please wait, Kanon-san! Ah! Hurry! Kumasawa eventually caught up with them, gasping for breath with both hands on her knees. When Kanon changed his grip on the wire cutters and looked up at the door, he let out an ah, struck speechless. Oh yeah, they're dead! Poor George! Poor George! His fiancé and now his parents? Ooh. What is this? Ah! Kumasawa screamed weakly, her face pallid. That was no surprise, because right there, on the door, just like the magic circle that had been drawn on the shutter of the Rose Garden storehouse, there was another eerie shape drawn with a blood-like paint. However, it would be odd to call this one a magic circle, because unlike what most people would expect, it wasn't a circle with shapes drawn inside, but a slightly more complicated geometrical shape. However, those strange characters filling in the gaps which worked from the alphabet were the same kind as the ones on that magic circle on the shutter. So this is probably to bypass the door? Because wasn't Maria saying last time that Beatrice has contracts with all the demons, including one called Gop or something that'll let her go wherever? Or like, I guess, teleport people wherever? They were probably trying to draw the same thing on Natsuhi's door, but the charm on the doorknob prevented the magic from working, or something like that. But the thing that had Kanon struck speechless wasn't how eerie the magic circle was. It was that something like this hadn't been there a short while ago. First, he had taken a trip back to the kitchen. After that, he'd gone to the storage room to grab a tool and headed right back. Put those together, and it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. How could someone add something this creepy during that period of time? I think 5 minutes is quite generous. Maybe 10 to 15 seems a bit more likely. You don't know how long you were monkeying around in the tool shed for. And as though it had just been drawn, almost like the door itself was bleeding, several unsettling vertical lines slowly drift down, getting longer and longer. Yeah, that's valid. Kumasawa's knees gave way and she sank down on the spot. If Kumasawa hadn't done this first, then Kanon surely would have wanted to. Beatrice-sama. It's the work of Beatrice-sama! How horrid! How horrid! Kanon gulped, then readied the wire cutter and approached the door. He didn't want to get close to this disturbing magic circle. And he really didn't want to touch the steadily dripping substance that looked like blood. But if he didn't get close, he wouldn't be able to cut the chain. Fighting this cold feeling, he gulped again, and after gathering his courage, he went even closer, putting the wire cutter up against the chain. He then pressed with all of his strength, managing to cut through the chain far more easily than he'd anticipated. Yeah, those mother effers are sharp. They don't look sharp, but if you ever used wire cutters, yeah. The cut chain fell into two separate parts, which continued to clang as they swayed back and forth. Kanon-san, there's an envelope by your feet, and isn't that the master's? It looks like Kumasawa had also noticed the western envelope at the bottom of the door, and that the sealing wax had been sealed with the head's ring. Kanon hesitated for just a second over whether he should open the letter first or check inside the room, but he eventually decided on fulfilling his original purpose. Kanon pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket. This was so he wouldn't leave fingerprints on the door. If his worst fears were realized, the police would want to investigate this room too. He slowly pushed the door open. He was able to more clearly hear the sound of the television, which had been seeping out faintly this whole time. Eva-sama? Eva was lying face up on the bed. Oh no. On the bed? With her shoes still on? Kumasawa, who had fearfully entered after Kanon, and who was hiding behind his back, screamed a short "Eee!" again when she saw Eva like that. Eva's shoes had been the first part of her that Kanon had seen. So the oddness of wearing shoes in bed was the first thing to strike him. But when Eva's head shifted into his line of sight, Kanon couldn't help but let out a short scream like Kumasawa. Oh no. Right in the middle of Eva's forehead, something had been placed? Something was growing there? No. Right in the center of her forehead. Was it an old-fashioned knife? That or some weapon like it was sticking out? Oh my god! Damn, this game is so good. At the base of where it was stuck in, blood dripped down, staining the sheets on the other side bright red. Kumasawa's knees gave way once more as she sank down to the floor. Her mouth kept flapping open and closed, but she couldn't even scream. Eva was dead, with some kind of weapon sticking out of her forehead. Both eyes were wide open, and the image of the person who killed her must have been burned into them. But the only mouth capable of naming that person had been shut for all eternity. Even though the forehead was the last place they wanted to look, they couldn't tear her eyes from it. Right there, the weapon was stuck into Ava's forehead, standing almost perfectly upright. Not the handle. It was a complicated design, that you wouldn't expect to see on an ordinary weapon. That thing could be summed up with the word occult. The soundtrack, right? The sound design in this game is fantastic. The way it went from eeriness to like a big cacophony of noise and then into the music again, beautiful. It was a vulgar object with a design that might have been of some demon. What about Hideyoshi-sama? Hideyoshi-sama! Ava was on top of her bed, but the other bed was empty. Where was Hideyoshi? After taking a backwards glance at Kumasawa, still on her knees and stupefied, he checked the bathroom just in case. At the moment he opened the door, he was greeted by steam and the sound of the shower. Oh dear. The bathroom was of the same familiar style as most hotel bathrooms. In the shower, a waterproof curtain was used to keep water from flying out. The waterproof curtain was half open, and lying tumbled down in the bathtub was Hideyoshi, completely naked, with both eyes open. Damn. What a way to go. Someone decided to replicate the Hitchcock movie. And pointing right at Kanon. What? Oh, nope. For a second I was like, is he alive? No. They phrased it that way to like throw things off. Under the shower's hot water this whole time. His face wasn't half covered and filthy with blood like Ava's had been, but the sight of him dead while still taking a shower was tragic enough. Just then, they heard Natsuki's voice coming from the hall. Oh, girl, don't come in here. He was probably coming with Genji. Again with this graffiti. Oh, there's no the guns unneeded, fam. They dead. What about this letter? What does it say inside? I don't know. I haven't read it yet. You shouldn't touch it carelessly. The culprit's fingerprints might be left on it. We should hand it over to the police. They went out of their way to leave it here. I'm sure they wouldn't have left fingerprints. As fast as he said that, she picked up the envelope. Before checking its contents, she entered the room herself, where she found Ava dead. And Ava-san! Madame, Hideyoshi-sama is here too. This is truly atrocious. Worse than the 6 people in the shed with their heads half smashed in. Kana, turn off the shower. Don't let this be any more pitiful than it needs to be. Yes, ma'am. Kana gripped his handkerchief and twisted the valve, turning off the shower. In the bathtub, a small jar of body soap had fallen with his cap off. Really looked like he'd been attacked while taking a shower. There was still a small splash of blood clinging to the white bathtub. And the combination of red and white made a horrible contrast. Dr. Nanjo? I understand. No signs of post-mortem lividity. Rigor mortis hasn't begun either. It would seem that an hour or so has passed since they were killed. Damn. But even so, how a weapon with such a short handle could do that to the skull? I cannot imagine. Kanon repulsed their pupils, making certain of their deaths once more. I mean, I guess that's standard procedure, but if they've got blades sticking out of their forehead, probably unnecessary. As Connor watched this business-like treatment, he thought, did you tell at a glance that they were dead without doing all that? Nandra thought about removing the weapon, then decided it would be better to preserve the scene. Hand it over to the police, so he left it alone. Yes, please do not traumatize people by seeing all the gray matter stuck to the knife, thank you. But a close inspection of the base showed that it didn't have a blade. In fact, it was more conical than blade-shaped. He noticed that, rather than a knife, it was more like a short-handled spear. Damn. She was well prepared. Something with a shape better suited for thrusting than slicing. Some might have likened it to a thick ice pick rather than a short spear. At any rate, looking at the scene, no further words were needed to describe what sort of terrible purpose such eerily designed weapons were originally made for. Nor was it necessary to explain how they carried out their function. Natsuki, hoping to escape the repulsive steam filling the bathroom as soon as she could, covered her mouth with her handkerchief and dashed from the room. Just viewing their gruesome bodies for an instant had been enough to burn the image into her eyes. If she looked any longer, that image would surely remain in her vision for all eternity. The rising urge to vomit was exactly the same feeling she'd had that morning at the gardening storehouse. For a while, Natsuki couldn't help but stand with her back facing the guest room, fighting that sickness in her stomach. At any rate, we can't let the children... we can't let George-kun see this room. Yeah, I mean, good thing George decided not to stay with his parents. Seal this room with all haste. Yes, we mustn't let them see. George-san saw his parents in that brutal state. I could tell that those fiercely racing footsteps in the hallway belonged to George, even before he came dashing into the room. Oh no. George and the other children had been waiting in the parlor. Oh boy. However, when they saw Genji speak to Natsuki, and they saw her turn pale, fly out of the parlor, they felt a sense of foreboding. And when they saw a large group of people gathered around the guest room, they were sure of it. Father! Mother! What is this? Another magic circle? Don't you say a word, Maria. Don't you say it. And you and Uncle Hideyoshi are safe, right? Hey, Kano-kun! What's this all about? Butler-sama? Kano didn't have anything to say. Or Kano did have to did this! I'll kill you! Hang in there. He touched George's shoulder with her hand, but he violently shook her off. It's so over, Jack. Oh God, is it ever? I mean, he wasn't married, but he became an orphan and a widower, all in the same day, technically. Like, shady. George fell over beside Ava and buried his face in the bed in front of his mother's face, wailing. Oh, that's really sad. That's really sad. And he pounded on the bed with his fist over and over again. George Nissan, hang in there. Stop telling him to hang in there. That's not helpful. Huh? Battler? Battler summer. Battler had his back against the wall of the hallway. It was covering his eyes with his right hand and weeping without restraint. Horrible. That's horrible. He proposed to the girl he loved and lost her the next day. And on the same day, even his mom and dad were killed. Isn't that too harsh? Of course it's sad whenever anyone dies, no matter who it is. But to Adler, those left alone by the deaths of others were far more worthy of pity. Everyone here now had lost someone close to them. George wasn't the only one to be pitied. However, George's pain was far greater than everyone else's. Adler, I know one dies sooner or later. If you're human, you'll eventually have to fight the sorrow of losing someone close to you. But still, shouldn't that day be far in the future for Anaki? And shouldn't those deaths visit him one at a time? Horrible. It's too horrible. Bastard. That bastard! Doesn't he have even a speck of human sympathy in him? Battler, don't cry. Don't cry. Maria tried to comfort Battler in a mechanical-sounding voice. Dear God, why is she here? Battler violently wiped his tears. Yeah, damn it, I won't cry anymore. Here's a sadness, I won't shed them again. It's all useless. Just got back into the corner. That's always on the defensive, and that's useless. It's all useless. Spin the chessboard around. Okay, put $1 in your bank account, guys. Like we said on Twitter, the challenge for today is every time you spin the chessboard around, put money in your savings. Bastard probably thinks we'll be running scared like sheep until tomorrow before we try anything. But guess what? I'll spin it around. Does that count as a second one? Sure, that's $2. But guess what? I'll spin it around. That bastard can't escape this island until tomorrow either. We won't be hiding away, pissing ourselves, that bastard will. I'll expose you, you'll see. I'll expose you, you'll see, by tomorrow. No, screw tomorrow. Tonight. When tonight's over, I'll be gripping you by the collar. At any rate, we'll rock. Blah, 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 blah. Hang on, I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. At any rate, we'll lock this room and leave everything as is until the police come. Achoo. 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 Bless you. Thank you. No objections, I take it? Natsuki announced it as though she didn't care whether they agreed or not. If anyone had a right to object, it would have been George. But he looked as though he'd shed enough tears. George nodded slightly, still facing away from the others. And when he stood up, everyone else agreed too. Natsuki still hadn't opened that western envelope with the family head that she'd picked up. But now that they decided to leave this room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor, where everyone could watch. Uh-oh. I don't like where this is going. As soon as they walked out into the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place, or maybe sensed something strange. Stinks? Uh-oh. Did you notice it too, Maria? Seriously, what's that smell? It's awful. When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible bird smell drifting through the hallway, one that none of them had smelled until then. I will go quickly to check the kitchen. I'm sure I turned the flame off. After noticing a bird smell, it was natural that Kumasawa, who had just been using the burner in the kitchen, suspected that her own slip-up had caused it. Kumasawa hastily dashed away. Kanon, go with Kumasawa. Do not let her be alone. Yes. After nodding at Genji's order, Kanon followed after her. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well. Ugh. Stinks. Ugh. Thanks, Maria. It truly is a stench that makes the nose wrinkle. However, that doesn't mean we could just open a window for ventilation. Natsuki was reluctant to open a window in a situation where self-defense was so important. Let us run the fan. I do not believe there will be any need to open the windows. George Aniki? Is it okay if I talk to you? If it's about finding the culprit, then I have no problems. It seemed that George had managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow. All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit who had stolen the lives of the one he loved and his beloved parents. Dun dun. Dun. The music, man. All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit who had stolen the lives of the one he loved and his beloved parents. The chain for this room was set, from what I could tell by looking at it. I'm positive that it couldn't be opened from the outside. In other words, this was a perfectly closed room. That does seem to be the case. In the case of the Rose Garden storehouse, they might have sneaked the shutter's key out of the servant's room. They might have sneaked the shutter's key out of the servant's room, or maybe they had a duplicate key. I can imagine many ways they could have done it. Bum, bum. But this chain is different. Among generally used locking techniques, a chain is the simplest one to create a closed room with. Only a chain will block everyone coming from the outside, as long as it isn't physically broken. So, does that mean the culprit couldn't have gone in or out through the door? Technically. With enough time, you can set a chain. Also, they could have been hiding in the room, and once the person broke the chain and came in, they snuck out. That's also a closed room technique. Just a few hours ago, I seem to remember everyone making a fuss over how to enter a room without using the door. Back then, we were all losing our cool, wondering how grandfather had disappeared from his room. The receipt Ava had stuck in the door on a whim proved that the door had remained sealed. And since Aunt Natsuhi was the only person to enter or exit during that time, she was under suspicion. Aunt Ava proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsuhi might have thrown grandfather out the window. Yeah, bye, Grandpa! And left by the door herself. But this door is much simpler. It was sealed from the inside by the door chain. The window had also been locked from the inside, and the bodies had been inside the room. This time, it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. That's right. If you include grandfather's disappearance, 3 cases have occurred, and all 3 times the door had been the point of interest. first was the shutter. There was a key in the servant's room. And if we assume someone knew about that, this can't really be called a closed room. Next was the door sealed by the receipt. And what a receipt it was. Dun, 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 dun. However, Aunt Natsuhi entered that room. So if Grandfather had left through the window or been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Sorry, it's just funny to imagine them throwing this dude out the window. Is that terrible? Or, like my theory, Grandfather could have hidden until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you can't really call this one a closed room either. And now, we have the door sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The window, the door, everything had been locked. It was a perfect closed room. The first hadn't been a closed room because everyone could be suspected. The second hadn't been a closed room because Aunt Natsuhi could be suspected. But this time, no one could be suspected. It's a ghost, it's Beatrice! This was a perfect closed room because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well. In that case, did the culprit carry out the crime without entering the room? Now there's a thought. Did they throw the spears? Like, what is this freaking gay bull from Fate Grand Order? For those who don't know about Gable, either because they don't play Fate or they don't know Irish mythology, it is supposed to be an undodgeable spear. Like, it's guaranteed to have a killing blow no matter what. That's why in the Fate anime, sometimes you see it do some really crazy flying maneuvers, because you're not supposed to be able to avoid it. That's why I'm like, what? Is it gay balls? Did she just throw it and shoo? Good point. Even though the chain makes it impossible to open it wide enough for a person to fit through, you can open it a small crack. Did the culprit knock on the door to make them peer out before attacking them? Wait, am I missing something? Yeah, how did they get the door shut again? That's the thing. Yeah, you are. If Aunt Ava's body had been lying right next to the door, then it might have been possible. But she was on the bed at the back of the room. And Uncle Hideyoshi was even in the bathroom. Looking from the crack, you couldn't even see them, and you couldn't reach them with your hands either. Gable, confirmed. Beatrice Sama is a servant. Unexpectedly, you'd think she'd be a caster, she's a lancer. Or even an archer, you know, technically. The joke is archers, the archer class are not actually made up of archers. They're just people that throw all myriad of things. And you couldn't reach them with their hands either. Damn it, it's all useless. I don't have a clue. Something was tugging softly at my sleeve. It was Maria. Here we go. Girl! Girl's now not the time to be all proud and condescending. Oh, girl. 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 No. Stop. 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 Oh, boy. I don't like that look on her face. Ugh. Satisfied? Maria's gonna get beaten. And I mean, you shouldn't beat a child, but what do you mean, satisfied? Rattler, since you didn't want to suspect any of your relatives, you made a wish saying you wanted the culprit to be Beatrice, right? Well, Beatrice granted that wish. Just as you asked, she did something that was completely impossible for a human to make you believe in the witch. And now you're complaining? How selfish. Yup! You deserve that, child. I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly on the head with my fist. Sure. Thanks for granting that wish. That just now was to thank you and also to teach you to stop laughing when it's inappropriate. More importantly, tell me. There was another mysterious scribble on the door to Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Was that another magic circle? That one had a real memorable and characteristic design, so I'd hoped you'd at least know what it was. Ouch! I don't know, which is why I'm letting you take the credit. Quit whining and explain. You sure are violent, Battler. You earned it, girl. I won't tell you if you're too mean, get it? Ouch! Oh, say it! Stop hitting me! It's the first magic circle of the moon. What does it mean? What is this magic circle's effect? What does the Hebrew writing mean? The words are from the Old Testament, Psalms 107, verse 16. For he has broken gates of brass and cut through bars of iron. So I was right. It is to get through doors. This magic circle has two effects. First, it can open a door regardless of which method has been used to lock it. That sure is convenient. So you're saying they're trying to make it look like they're a witch because this closed room has a door that can't be opened without relying on magic? And the other effect? When you're blocked by unopenable doors in all directions, it opens a door. By using it in a difficult situation, it gives you a solution you hadn't even thought of until then. Generally speaking, you receive the powers of observation and discernment, inspiration and intuition. Hee-hee-hee! Why'd you have to add the hee-hee-hee at the end? Beatrice is trying to provoke you, since there's no way lowly humans like Battler could figure out how this door was opened. Oh, just give him some time. Ouch! Okay, good work, so shut up. Sounds great. I'll accept this challenge from the witch. we shouldn't take joy in another suffering. But Maria has really brought this on herself by not being mature enough to know this is not the time. Maria-chan? Things like witches and demons don't exist in this world. Someone killed father and mother. I don't know whether that was someone I know or not, but either way, it was definitely a human. Yeah, but how? Great question. How did they reach those two through that crack in the door? It couldn't have been more than 10 centimeters wide. At any rate, I can hardly stand this stench. What in the world could it be? Kanon and Kumasawa, who had gone on ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen, even before they arrived there. I almost forgot about this. That was because they noticed an even thicker wave of stench rising up from the stairs leading to the basement, which they passed on their way to the kitchen. Oh god, it's Grandpa, isn't it? The boiler room. Oh god. Yeah, if you put a dead body in the boiler room, it'll decompose a lot faster because of the heat and steam. Yup. I wonder if there's something wrong with the boiler again. Those stairs led to the underground boiler room. The mansion's boiler was old and in poor condition. Both of them had witnessed problems with the boiler on several occasions, but they had never smelled the boiler belching out a stench like this. If you put a dead body in there, that would do it. Slam? What was that sound? But then they heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Kumasawa had phrased it as a question, but she already knew it couldn't be anything else. Kumasawa was so surprised at that sound that her knees gave way yet again and she cowered. After all, at that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. Just a few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Ava and Hideyoshi's room. So, who caused the sound of a door closing just now, Kinzo? Kanon-san! After taking a second to sort out the situation, Kennen ran down towards the basement. Since they heard the sound of the door closing just now, and there was no sign of anyone coming up the stairs. The person who closed the door had to be inside the boiler room now. If the boiler room had been a dead end, Kanon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily. But Kanon was a servant, so he knew. There were two entrances to the boiler room, one that opened to the mansion, and one that opened to the courtyard. If he didn't chase them now, they might slip away. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Kanon did. She couldn't let him go alone. The thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who had easily killed 6 adults in the first murder. And no matter how Kanon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. Of course, with this argument, even if Kumasawa joined him, it wouldn't change anything. At any rate, after delay, that she mustn't let Kanon go alone, and she rushed down the stairs. Everything is awful! At that time, Kanon was already in the boiler room. Everybody's dropping like flies now. Sheesh! So much for the, 6 people one day, the couple the second day, whatever the third day. At that time, Kanon was already in the boiler room. The boiler room's characteristic damp heat tormented him. God. I was just thinking earlier that I hate doing laundry in the summer, because even though I don't use the dryer, other people do, and it makes the room insufferable to be in. It had always been an unpleasantly smelly and hot place. And on top of that, the room was filled of that horrible stench, which made Kanon feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt that this room was the source. In that case, Kanon should have been searching for where the smell was coming from. However, Kanon kept gazing straight forward as he grabbed a hatchet from a tool shelf just off to the side of the door. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he'd wanted a hatchet. He had wanted to grab a weapon. Any weapon. Why? Kanon gazed into the darkness where the naked light bulb couldn't pierce. Then he answered. In roulette, he bet on a number of the colors, red or black, vying for a payoff. However, low-risk bets like black and red only offer a similarly low payoff. The words coming from Kanon's mouth were swallowed up by the darkness. The darkness suddenly started to swirl, glittering. She finally appears? It was such a fantastical scene. Golden, sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows all over the boiler room flapped their wings, twinkling beautifully, and gathered in the darkness, disappearing. Kanon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness as it swallowed the butterflies up. But as the butterflies scattered in the darkness, they, perhaps, probably, no, they would certainly laugh. But Kanon continued to speak without faltering. However, if you bet on something with a lower probability, your payoff increases proportional to the risk. The master called succeeding, despite an astronomical risk, a miracle, and called the astronomical payoff gained as a result magic. I have no interest in what kind of magic you and the master were seeking when you spun that roulette. But you forgot something. You forgot that in roulette there's a pocket that's neither black nor red. Roulette has a special pocket called 0, which means that the house takes everything in certain variants of the game. This means that all of the coins bet on the table will be swept up just as though everyone has forfeit. I set my heart on just one thing. I decided that if Shannon were to be killed and I was left alive, I'd sacrifice this life of mine and bring this roulette of yours to ruin. This isn't one of the Master's rules, and it certainly isn't one of yours. I made this rule myself. I'm not furniture anymore. I'm the zero on your roulette. Damn, Canon! Canon's face twisted with humiliation. It was clear that his defiance against his own weakness was being ridiculed somehow. Canon's brow creased even further, and a fierce expression that he'd never shown to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops, which slid downward. It was clear that the emotion causing Canon's hand to shake wasn't just anger. However, Canon suppressed that emotion. I won't let your words lead me astray again. This is where the demon's roulette ends. Wait another 1,000 years in hell for your next summoner, Beatrice! When Canon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness definitely sneered. It sneered at that courage as if it were vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless. Excuse me! What great timing for that sneeze. Canon, his hatchet still held aloft. Could it take another step after that? With a clang, the hatchet that he'd been grasping fell and rolled on the floor. And following that, with a pair of thuds, Canon's knees hit left, then right. The hand, which looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. Yeah, I figured. Right there was a handle with a demonic design engraved in it. As Canon looked down at his chest, the same type of weapon that had been stabbed into Ava and Hideyoshi's forehead was. Oh man, Canon was curled up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for Canon's white skin. Around this scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. Excuse me. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance, a funeral march of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. Canon had already been prepared for his own death, but although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon, sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. Ugh. For only a moment, a bright red spray gushed out. It made an unpleasant plump a sound. It probably resembled the sound of Cannon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead. Canon-san! Oof, yeah. Someone! Canon Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Canon was lying in a pool of blood. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. What a horrible fate! He wouldn't have been killed if I had been with him. What incredible luck. If I had been with them, I might have been killed too. As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion, and all of the muscles of her face were pulled up, almost as though she was smiling while crying. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. What is it? The first one to dash in was Natsuhi holding the rifle. Battler and Genji dashed in after her. Normally, they probably would have started discussing the origin of that violet stench filling the boiler room. But after they saw Kanon, who was lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Kanon! Answer me! Genji, bring Dr. Nanjo here! Natsuhi realized that even though Kanon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so she sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsuhi, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted, rather than confronting the person, well, I mean, you should confront the person. Someone, put pressure on the wound? Thank you. Who is hiding over there? Come out quietly. Don't come out there. I'll shoot without mercy. We need light. And Natsuhi, let's light them up. Battler, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shelf alongside the door and used its light to cut through the darkness Natsuhi was glaring into. But the light only shone on a mechanical-looking piping and a door. The door had been left open a small crack, and it was obvious that someone had left through there in a hurry. And Natsuhi, where does that door go? Genji, where does that door lead to? The courtyard. Like hell I'd let you get away, you damn bastard! Battler let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. Cool air from outside suddenly rushed in. There were some thin, rough stairs leading up. Battler ran up them, shouting, "Wait, Battler-kun! It's dangerous to be on your own right now!" Natsuki was also rushing up the stairs, chasing after Battler. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't a very elegant place. Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though they could hear the sound of strong winds. It was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Battler looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Battler spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in this scenery. But there was no chance. All he saw as he spun was more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were two entrances into the mansion from the courtyard, and neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from outside the mansion, the doors had been built without locks. He didn't know which one they had left through. He had to give up. Battler pounded the wall with his fist, swearing, "Battler-kun, you mustn't run ahead by yourself." Battler-kun? Battler pressed his forehead against the wall which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! And Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, now Kanon-kun, killed a full 6 people, and that wasn't enough, so you had to kill 3 more. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? And Uncle Eva and Uncle Yoshi were so kind and fun. I just met Kanon yesterday, but I'm sure I'd have gotten along with them fine. Why did you kill them? Why? Why? No, when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? People die when they are killed. They are gonna quickly sprout up again like bamboo shoots. Why'd you kill them? Why? Why? Oh, there he goes. Poor guy. He picked a hell of a time, to come back from the break. Whew. Badler was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's heart. So he cried. With all his strength, Natsuhi had always thought of Badler as a frank person. He was a little surprised to find he had this delicate side. And at the same time, she understood how easily hurt the heart of a young person could be. So she held him. It's all right. I will definitely protect you, George-kun, Maria-chan, and Jessica. As a mother, and as the representative of the Ushinomiya family. Oh, Badler, after sobbing into Natsuhi's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile as though he had been like that the whole time, and tried to appear as though he'd cried more than enough already. Anyway, let's go back down for now. Protecting ourselves is a higher priority than finding the culprit. Tomorrow, the boat will arrive. After that happens, the police will come, and everything should be brought to light. There's no way the culprit can escape this island, no matter how much they struggle. That's right. When the police come, and the seagulls cry, the crime will be solved. Hey, title draw! For some reason, Badler felt a slight sense of uneasiness, as if the seagulls would never cry again. That couldn't be true. When the typhoon passes, surely the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again. I returned to the boiler room, along with Natsuhi, and told everyone weakly that we hadn't found anything. We heard that Dr. Nanjo and George Aniki had carried Kanon-kun to the servant room. Sorry, I sneezed again. I hope I'm not getting a cold, though from all the changes in weather, who knows? Thank you. Sorry if I gave you my cold. God damn it. Those powerful germs, man, they get across the ocean now. The servant's room had a first aid kit and a sink, and could apparently function as a nurse's office. Kumasawa-san and Jessica had accompanied them. No stains from Kanon-kun's blood remained on the floor. Judging by the large amount of blood loss and the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured that Dr. Nanjo's treatment would probably end in vain. Excuse me. The weapon was doubtlessly the same type that had been stuck in Aunt Ava and Uncle Natsuhi's foreheads. But wait, isn't the demonic design on the handle a little different? There seem to be small differences in that part. Still, As far as their overall shape was concerned, the weapons were all of the same type. Though it had seemed brutal, we'd left the weapons stuck into Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi to preserve the crime scene. So this was the first time we were able to have a perfect view of the entire weapon. As we had expected, the weapon was not bladed like a knife, but shaped like an ice pick, or rather, a thin stake. And it had a spiral-shaped pattern, sort of like a drill. Oh no, it's the drill that pierces the heavens. It looked like something that might be driven into the hearts of human sacrifices in some demonic ritual. Including the handle, it was 25 centimeters long. Oof, that's a pretty big knife, or whatever you want to call it. Half of that was the stake-shaped part, which was stained with deep red blood. The length of the blood-stained part made it clear just how deeply it must have penetrated into Kanum-kun's chest. Ah, yes, the incinerator. Someone burned a body in there, of course. There are a few things that smell worse in the world than burnt flesh and hair. It's all the oils in the body that, from what I know, cause the horrible stench. They must have dragged out that thing which had been burning in the furnace. I don't like that Maria's just standing there. It was still smoldering. It kept sending out dense waves of that awful, unpleasant smell. Genji-san and Maria stared out at it. Maria! Aunt Nazuhi probably couldn't stand to look directly at it. She kept shaking her head, her back to it. Ugh! I thought nothing could surprise me after everything that's happened, but this is... I stood there for a while, moaning with a rising urge to vomit. The true source of that unearthly stench was a scorched corpse that had been cooking inside the incinerator. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. The clothes, the surface of the body, and the hair were all hideously burned. That grotesque corpse was in a state where not the face, nor the age, nor even the gender could be guessed at. But when I thought about it calmly, I realized that a corpse appearing at this time could only be one person. How big is this incinerator, though? To be able to fit a body of a grown man in there, assuming they didn't chop him up first? It was grandfather, who had disappeared that morning and whose whereabouts had been unknown. I believe it is most likely the master. I agree that he would pass away in such a state. It's heartrending. I mean, hopefully they killed him before they threw him in the incinerator. Because that would just be fucked right up. But is there any proof that this corpse really is grandfather? It's burnt so black you can't even tell what sex it is. Butler, come. Look at the feet. The feet? Does he got extra toes? Or is he missing toes because of the war? Aunt Natsuhi, with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted, pointed and told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet. Notice how there are 6 toes on each foot. Oh, damn! He's a polydactyl. Huh? Ah. You're right. Just as Genji-san had said, there were 6 toes on each foot. How nice of you to take off the shoes. Each individual toe had looked so normal in its line that I hadn't noticed. The master was born with 6 toes on both of his feet. Consequently, the master was entrusted with the revival of the Ushinomiya family because he has 6 toes. Or I guess 12 toes, technically. I had heard that since long ago, cases of polydactyly were common in the Ushinomiya family. Really? Battler, do you have... Well, Battler would say something if he had 6 toes. It's probably hereditary. Polydactyly literally means many fingers. Because of a little mistake by God, when the person is born, one of their toes or fingers splits in 2, and the total number increases. But a big deal isn't usually made of it in the world at large. That's because it isn't a disease, just something people are born with. So while they are still babies, at about the time they turn 1 year old, they can be taken to the hospital and given surgery to make them normal. Even a child with polydactyly can be treated before they become aware, so they might not even remember it themselves. By the way, it seems that there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. That's pretty sizable, honestly. So even though it's not usually seen, it isn't that rare at all. Speaking of which, I think Uncle Hideyoshi mentioned something to me long ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan at the end of the Sengoku period, had 6 fingers on one hand. When you reach 2K followers, odds are one of us have an extra toe. Or had an extra toe, considering, you know, they may have... You guys might have had surgery. Did I accidentally hit auto? I think I did. But yeah, is this an implication that the Ushinomiyas are supposed to be descended from the Toyotomi family? If I remember right, that family is still technically around. There's only like 1 dude left, and he's like a businessman. But he's famous because of that. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were all excited at the thought he might become another wise leader. And when the leading relatives all died in the Great Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued that grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious side of his birth. Damn. Most civilizations would argue that he's a child of the devil because he's got extra toes. Here they're like, come on, the famous samurai had an extra finger. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as the head so much, this 6th toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Come to think of it, I've heard about some country where it's believed people with polydactyl should be treated as gods and revered. This is besides the point, but it's fairly common in mystery novels for a corpse to be burned to hide its identity. But I guess that in grandfather's case, just toasting him wouldn't be enough. And grandfather's body was not simply burnt. It was just like Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi. and the thing that had been stabbed into Kanunkun's chest. One of those demon ice picks was stuck into his forehead. The head's ring is not on his finger, so the letter last night was telling the truth. Father would probably be horribly disappointed. And they still haven't opened that other letter they got. Because too much shit has happened. Natsuhi let her head droop and closed her eyes tightly. This room had also become a vital crime scene for us to hand over to the police. It was decided that we would lock the room, leave his corpse here, and seal it. It isn't clear where grandfather's corpse started burning in the incinerator, since, according to Genji, the strength of the flames hadn't been that strong. The body must have started burning a long time ago. So that stench could slowly creep out of the furnace and fill the room bit by bit, eventually pouring out and climbing up the staircase. Putting aside whether he was rare or well done, Butler, please. Grandfather had been brought out, killed, and burned, even though he had started out locked away in the closed room created by his auto lock. There's probably no doubting this. However, according to Genji-san, the boiler room is usually locked. The possibility that someone outside our group had snuck in and committed the crime was overwhelmingly high. There was a good chance that this person was walking around with something like a master key. After all, the doors and windows throughout the mansion had been checked. But despite that, the culprit was able to strut around the mansion freely. Does this crime confirm that a 19th person exists? There's still that contradiction since they're trying to tout their existence without even showing themselves once. Along with Kirie-san's chessboard theory, I've been using this contradiction to deny the existence of a 19th person. By spinning the chessboard around once more, hey, $3 in the bank account! You guys can buy a coffee now. You're welcome. The very fact that this crime makes it perfectly obvious that a 19th person exists means that the existence of the 19th person is even less plausible. Yo, this is just getting so confusing. As long as that 19th person doesn't show themselves in front of us. If the culprit could get grandfather out through the door sealed by the receipt, if they could kill Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi from the other side of a door sealed by a chain, then could they possibly go so far as to create a fictional 19th person through strange tricks and devices? But we still want to believe that the culprit is among the 18. And the list of suspects has grown very short. The four of us kids, Aunt Natsuki, Genki-san, Kumasawa-bachan, and Dr. Nanjo. One of these people has to be the culprit. Wait, we can't be sure of that. Just a second ago, we started doubting whether this corpse here was actually grandfather's, right? Maybe we can think of the other bodies in the same way. For example, the first 6 all had their faces horribly smashed. Some of the bodies had kept enough of their faces for us to confirm who they were. But that old bastard, for example, had lost his entire face, as though the whole thing had been neatly peeled off. Ugh! figured out which body was which by their clothes and surroundings. Did the culprit prepare a fake body beforehand and alter it to make it look like they died, even though they were actually hiding somewhere after committing the crime? It may sound ridiculous, but it wouldn't be an impossible trick to pull off. It's too early to give in to this 19th person. No, this witch. Damn. Maria-chan, you mustn't stare so fixedly anymore. Come on, Battler, come too. I'm worried about Kanon's condition, and we mustn't remain in a place like this any longer than necessary. Let us return. Oh. Maria didn't go out with everyone else, but remained in the boiler room. The thing she was staring at so fixedly probably wasn't grandfather's body, but the demon's ice pick sticking out of his forehead. It was probably the sort of item that an enthusiast couldn't bear to ignore. I tapped her on the head. Hey, Maria, what's Beatrice after? Is it all of our lives? Beatrice will revive very soon. At that time, none shall be left alive. How can you laugh at something like that? Do you think you're the only one who's safe? Why don't you feel like you're in danger? Why aren't you scared? Beatrice made a promise. She said she's gonna take me to the Golden Land. It's a wonderful place where you have no obligations. Everyone's always together, and everyone is always nice to everyone else. I'm looking forward to it. You fucked up child. You're enjoying people dying. That time will come very soon now. Just what kind of person is Maria? I only know what Maria was like 6 years ago, but she was 3. She was once pure and obedient. A good kid. This new Maria 6 years later, and the Maria I knew, didn't seem to fit together. Just, who is she? This witch who calls herself Maria. To Maria, who absently believes in the witch, the series of unsolvable crimes is proof that the witch actually exists. I can't believe she isn't the same as when she was 3. True. Though I think for a lot of people it's difficult to reconcile with how much a person can change in just 6 years. Every time something occurs that would be difficult for a human, it becomes a little harder for the rest of us to not believe in Beatrice. It must be an intense pleasure for Maria to see her relatives who once firmly denied the witch's existence start acknowledging that witch's existence one by one. Is that why she's in high spirits? Maria, let me ask this one more time. You'll probably answer the same anyway, but I'll ask just once more. Yesterday, you were given a letter in the rose garden. Who gave it to you? Like I said, Beatrice. Rattler still doesn't believe. Maria only repeated what she had already said. Maria met with the 19th person, the witch. Was that really a 19th person, or did one of the 18 just get her to say that? All that's certain is that Maria has been with the rest of us constantly, has always had an alibi, hasn't done anything suspicious. She's simply overjoyed at of being made Beatrice's messenger, and certainly isn't the 19th person, supposedly. That's right. I wonder what's written in the letter we picked up in Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. And Natsuhi should still have it with her. Damn, that was a long scene. 8:30 p.m. Nope, it was 7:30. Now it's 8. The night is long. Walk on, son. In the end, Kanon-kun did not regain consciousness. Even though Dr. Nanjo and the rest did all they could to heal him, of course. There was very little that could be done on an island like this without medicine or proper facilities. However, Kanon was the only human ever to confront the culprit. If only he could give us some sort of clue. However, at the time they carried Kanon away, it was already too late. My sincere apologies. Without proper facilities, there was nothing I could do about such a serious wound. No, that's perfectly understandable. Thank you so much for giving it your very best. Dr. Nanjo's shirt had been sprayed by a violent spurt of blood, so it was easy to imagine the devotion with which he had tried to save Kanon's life up until the last second. Jessica was crouched in the corridor, crying softly. She had been probably taking care of Kanon-kun until the moment of his death. George Aniki tried to approach her with words of comfort, but when Jessica pushed him away, he stopped trying to force her to talk and left her alone. If only I hadn't let Kanon's son go alone. Oh, do not let that bother you. If you had been with him, you probably would have been attacked as well. He foolishly rushed on ahead and paid for his mistake. How can you say it like that? Kanon-kun spotted the culprit and bravely stood up to them. If only Kumasawa-san had gone with them, the culprit might have hesitated and chosen to run away. Emotion-filled words that I never thought I'd hear coming from Jessica's mouth tumbled out. Kumasawa, looking truly sorry, could do nothing but hang her head. Jessica, you should have talked to her now. It's the same for me, and probably you as well, right, Butler-kun? We don't know what's going on, and it feels like our hearts are going to split open. There were tears in George Oniki's eyes again. Seeing Jessica break down crying probably brought back the pain of losing his parents. I'd done my crying all at once, so I didn't feel like crying anymore. However, I understood how great the pain in their hearts was. It's okay, Jessica. Someone stop this child! Holy shit! You'll be able to meet Kanon again soon. Stop it! I don't need you trying to console me like that. Beatrice will resurrect the dead, even the love that has been lost. So you'll definitely be able to meet him soon. Then everyone will be able to live in peace. So the one who killed Kanon is this Beatrice who supposedly gave you that letter yesterday? Where is she? Where's she hiding? I'll find her and tear her apart. Tell me! You know who the culprit really is, don't you? What do you know and what are you hiding? Tell me, damn it! Lady, please stop! Ugh! Beatrice exists! Exists! Okay, child, please stop. Damn it, let go of me, Genji-san. Maria knows who the culprit is, and she's hiding their identity even though she knows. She must be telling them what we're doing, guiding them as they kill us. Jessica, be silent. Jessica grabbed at Maria. Genji tried to stop her, but Jessica could not be calmed. The next thing I heard was the sound of Aunt Natsuhi slapping Jessica's face. After that, only Jessica's sorrowful, sobbing voice resounded throughout the hall. Maria-chan, I know there's no way you're the culprit. You've been with us since the beginning, and there was no time for you to communicate with any culprit. So I want you to tell me something. This Beatrice who handed you the letter yesterday, who was she? Although those words seemed kind, they clearly show that George had some remaining doubts about Maria. He did actually grab at her. However, he felt exactly the same way Jessica did. Aniki, I already asked her the same thing a second ago. Her answer was the same as before. I want to hear it from Maria's mouth. Who is Beatrice? Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe anyway. What do you mean by that? Could it be the culprit someone we know well, and you're keeping silent because you're covering for them? Who gave you that letter? I got it from Beatrice. I'll say it no matter how many times you ask. I got the letter from Beatrice. George Oni-chan, you refuse to believe in Beatrice because she's not an opponent you can hit? You want to turn your feelings of helplessness into violence and beat someone up. So you won't be satisfied until your opponent is a human you can hit. You're making yourself a very good target. So even if I tell you the truth, you won't accept it. So it's pointless for me to tell you. You won't believe. But I'll keep on saying it, because it's true. Beatrice exists. The door to the Golden Land will soon be opened. I'll go there. Beatrice promised. In that world, Mama is nice. Papa is with us and is also nice. I want to go there right away. Who's the one who took advantage of this child's trauma? I just want to talk. I want to go there right away. Everyone is afraid of Beatrice, but that's only natural. So calm yourselves. Beatrice said so herself. By the time the typhoon has passed, I'll have ended everything she said. Ouch! Maria? I don't mind you being talkative, but let's leave it at that for now. I'll bet this is all a pretty happy situation for you, since you're always going on about how witches exist. But keep that to yourself for now. Don't try to force that on other people. Ugh. I know I've been creeped out by this girl for a while now, but there really is something wrong with her. Don't you think so too? I don't think it's that she knows who the culprit is and she's hiding it. She's just that fucked up. Maybe she hasn't done anything directly, but she's definitely working with a criminal. That's right, she's a spy. We can't let her stay with us any longer. Maria-chan, you must realize there are times when indiscreet discussion is best avoided. If you keep adding oil to the fire, even I will get very angry. Aunt Natsuhi glared at Maria with frightening eyes. Maria was used to Aunt Rosa's loud style of scolding, but she apparently hadn't built up a resistance to Aunt Natsuhi's quiet sort of scolding. She shrugged and kept her mouth shut. A desolate feeling filled the room. It felt as though things would just get more complicated if anyone spoke. How many people had already died? 6 people in Dad's group. After that, both Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi, Kanun-kun, and Grandfather. There was a whole 18 people on this island, supposedly. And 10 of those people have been killed. That's more than half of us. And right now, there's absolutely no proof that the remaining 8 people will be safe. At any rate, this is no time to quarrel. Now that we are certain the culprit can enter and leave the mansion at will and strike out of nowhere, We must give our undivided attention to surviving until tomorrow. I agree strongly with Aunt Natsuhi. We can figure out who the culprit is at our leisure tonight. For now, though, we're better off finding a place to barricade ourselves in. As I said this, I pointed out the clock to everyone. It was already 8 at night. We had been receiving shocks over and over again since the early morning, and our bodies and minds were both completely tired out. There's still a long, long time until tomorrow. About 13 hours. Natsuhi predicted they would come at like 9 a.m. So... we needed to find some place to barricade ourselves in, so we could rest our bodies and get even the smallest amount of relief. I agree. Everyone is already pushing their mental and physical limits, myself included. I believe it would be wise to take that into account as we move forward. That's right. There's a high probability that the enemy's got their equivalent of a master key. Were Shannon, Kanonkan, and Goldra-san holding master keys? Yes, they were supposed to have them on their person during work. We didn't want to disturb the scene, so we didn't investigate that closely. They can't eliminate the possibility that someone stole the key from them. In the first place, we know the culprit may have visited the servant room at some point to unlock the garden shed shutter. It's conceivable that they obtained a master key from there earlier on. There were many servants serving the Ushinomiya family. Because of that, there were several master keys. Now that's just a terrible security mistake. There should only be one master key. For security reasons. What's the point in having a master key if you've got a dozen of them? Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished work, the keys were passed between servants. We had to acknowledge that this had probably gotten a bit sloppy at times in the past. Even if they borrowed a bundle of keys from the pockets of one of the murdered servants. Is there any safe place that even those keys couldn't open? Grandfather's study. Because of the nature of our job, we have been entrusted with keys to all of the rooms. All of them in the mansion and in the guest house. So in other words, no matter where we hole up and lock ourselves in, it'd just be pointless. Fine, who cares about locking up? If you're gonna come, bring it on, damn it! I'll beat you at your own game. The enemy won't approach us from the front. I don't know about the first 6, but if we look at what happened to my parents and Kanonkan, and even grandfather, the enemy has only gone after isolated people. They don't have the power to assault all of us openly in a secure room. That's right. It's just like Aniki says. And maybe Aunt Natsuhi's rifle can serve as a deterrent to stop them from attacking. I hope that is so, but... Someone stop this child. Maria, I know you want to say something, but keep it to yourself and stay quiet for a while. Ugh. Maria probably wanted to say something about how witches were afraid of things like guns. But if she were to say it out loud, the atmosphere around here would start to get pretty edgy. I had noticed and decided to put a stop to it. If I may, I do know of just one place that cannot be entered, even with the servant key rings. Where is that? That would be the master's study. I'm against this! I don't even want to think about going in grandfather's creepy room. So you'd rather die? How many keys can gain access to that room? There are 2. I always have one on my person. The other was held by the master himself. But just now, I found this on the corpse in the boiler room. Genji took a handkerchief out of his pocket and showing us the burnt and filthy study key. Then he showed it alongside his own key, which he had lent to Natsuhi. Normally, it would have been proper to leave the master's key for the police, but because of the master's orders to protect the safety of the study, I borrowed it for the time being. You see, which means that Kinzo's own study is the only place where we can be safe. It would appear that way. I don't even want to think about being shut up in that strange room all night. But it appears we must acknowledge that his room is safer than anywhere else right now. Even though grandfather locked himself up in that safe room, the culprit brought him out and killed him. We can't be certain that it's truly safe. According to your theory, grandfather cleverly found a way around that receipt trick and left the room of his own free will. If so, the room might be a good place to barricade ourselves in after all. I mean, all Beatrice had to do was knock at the door and go, honey, I'll be waiting for you in the basement. And the simp would have just gone. No questions asked. You're too optimistic, Aniki. However, at the same time, I thought he brought up a pretty interesting point. After all, this gave us a chance to question the enemy, the witch herself, about how the sealed door had been opened. We assumed the culprit used some technique to kidnap grandfather from his study. They'd have to show us the same trick again if they wanted to assault us in the study. And that gave us a chance to make the culprit prove how they did it, right before our eyes. If she's really a witch, we'll be forcing her to use her little magic trick to open the door right in front of us. That's probably impossible. If you spin the chessboard around, hey, $4! It's obvious the culprit is acting in a way that'll make us think they're a witch. If she really is a witch, all she's got to do is appear in front of us and wow us with a colorful display of magic. Since she's avoided doing that, everything must be the work of a fake witch who wants us to think she's real. Therefore, a culprit who used a technique other than magic to defeat the closed room couldn't open the door before our eyes. Is grandfather's room big enough to stuff 8 people in? I mean, there's even a bedroom in there. Yes. There is a bed, a sofa, and blankets, so while it is not luxurious, it will be more than suitable for spending the night. There is also a sink, a bathroom, a refrigerator, and a liquor cabinet. Well, that's incredible. But isn't that weird? You're saying he built another house inside his house? That's pretty cramped for the last house of someone like our grandfather, who bought a whole island and realized all of his dreams. That's right. After some point in time, father probably couldn't feel at peace in any other place inside the mansion. We always sneered about how he shut himself up in there. And this time, we're the ones who are going to shut ourselves up. Jessica spat the words out. Jessica-chan, sounds like you'd rather go search for the culprit than stay shut up somewhere. Of course, I don't think we'll be able to find them if we just start searching on our own. In the end, we can't do anything but wait. Then it doesn't matter where we wait, does it? I'm not gonna run away or hide. Why don't we just take it easy in the parlor watching TV or something while we wait for this Beatrice to appear? It's perfectly fine if she doesn't appear. There's no need for us to be the ones who expose the culprit. Well said. We shouldn't take needless risks before the police arrive. Thank you, Dr. Nanjo. I think we should move to Father's study. True, we have no proof that it's safe since Father was taken out of there. However, I can't deny the possibility that, as Badler kind of reasoned, Grandfather left the study of his own accord and was attacked outside. A while back, I proposed that strange theory as a stopgap measure. But just as Aunt Ava said, even though that trick would be possible, I couldn't explain what motive could have made Grandfather sneak out of his own study in such a troublesome way. Plus, Grandfather couldn't even have used that trick unless he knew that the receipt was wedged in the door. Aunt Ava had pointed out that last part, but it's clear how absurd the theory was. So, does that mean the sealed door formed a closed room, just as Aunt Ava claimed? Is it an undeniable fact that Aunt Natsuhi was the culprit? If Aunt Ava were here now, she'd probably make that claim openly and blow my strange theory away. But anyway, I had to admit that a room with both a bed and a toilet that all 8 people could be shut up in, and with only 2 keys, both of which were gathered here, had to be the safest place in the mansion right now. At the very least, I figured this would be better than just staying shut up in the parlor and hoping nothing would go wrong. But wait, have we been safe only because we've been shut up in the parlor? What if leaving that room and moving to an unexplored location is actually more dangerous? It's useless, it's all useless. My flimsy head is about to break out in a fever. If I keep spinning the chessboard, hey, $5! Right and wrong will keep switching over and over, and I won't be able to believe in anything. When it seems like the culprit is one of the 18, I want to believe in Beatrice. And once I start believing in Beatrice, I start wanting to find the culprit amid the 18. If that keeps spinning around forever, in the end, my thoughts won't have taken one step from where they started. How far back in the past was it that Kirie-san taught me about chessboard thinking? That concept of examining the situation by spinning it around and thinking from the enemy's side. $6? Sure, $6. I seem to remember being still interested by it back then. I used it to guide all my thinking. By the way, Kirie-san was Dad's co-worker back then. I never dreamed that she'd someday be added to our family. Ugh. Didn't Kirie-san tell me something once? I get the feeling that she once said that while the chessboard thinking was one way to look at things, it certainly wasn't all powerful. Those chess pieces gonna be blowing chunks, oh god. And it wouldn't be good to rely on it too much. Chessboard thinking is my own interpretation of something called game theory, which I read about in a book long ago. It's a very interesting subject, so you should tackle it yourself when you get into college, Battlecom. I really want to try it. If I could study and perfect my chessboard thinking, it'd be fun to be able to read into any opponent's moves, wouldn't it? But you can't believe in it blindly. Game theory is a very deep and complicated subject. Chessboard thinking is just my interpretation that skims the surface of game theory. In order to thoroughly read your opponent moves like you're imagining, you need to study your opponent. Additionally, while chessboard theory is convenient and practical, it isn't perfect. It has many weak points despite its convenience. Weak points? Yes. Chessboard thinking is founded upon game theory. It's just a theory. When you thoroughly investigate game theory, it boils down to math. Do you know what the weak point of math is? It's noise. In math, when you write 1 + 1 = 2, that process will always result in 1 + 1 = 2, no matter how many billions of years pass. Nothing more, nothing less. That's because there's absolutely no noise mixed in. But, for example, unlike math, the Japanese language has noise mixed in. Kanji are a good example. Old kanji and new kanji are slightly different, which represents an introduction of noise created by the changes between time periods. Is it history the same? There are dozens of policies that seem foolish in the modern era, but were meaningful at some point in the past. Because the rules of chess are fixed when a pair of experts are discussing one particular layout, it's possible they could reach the same conclusions, whether they're from 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future. However, if the rules of chess had gone through massive changes over time, it's possible that a discussion about the same layout would have changed as well. That's right. Events in the world of humans are normally full of noise. Aren't human emotions that way? Even if the exact same thing occurs more than once, there's no guarantee that humans will always act in a predictable fashion. The moment we try to use a math-based theory to predict someone's actions, we must be aware that our theory has built-in weaknesses and limits. Simply put, chessboard thinking is extremely weak against noise and fickleness, as well as mistakes or incorrect knowledge. That's right, Kirie-san definitely said that. Chess has always been a game where both sides play by the same rules and fight with the same conditions for victory. That's why it's possible for both sides to predict the other's moves. It's possible to read your opponent because you can always suppose they'll make the best moves they can find. But what if your opponent is fickle or a bit tired, and makes a move that can hardly be called the best? Or what if this game actually has a special rule? Some unknown thing that only the enemy knows about and can use. In fact, what if their opponent actually has some goal other than victory? Think from your enemy's perspective. That's the basis of chessboard thinking, which means you misread your enemy. The answer you draw from this process will be complete rubbish, useless. So far, I've used chessboard theory to guess several vague bits of information about the culprit hiding behind this case. Or so I think. However, I don't know anything about the culprit. Am I just playing around in a labyrinth of thought? If Kirie-san were here at a time like this, she'd probably be able to notice something with her much sharper thinking ability. Until the very last moment, Jessica resisted moving into grandfather's study. But in the end, Aunt Nazuhi persisted, and we decided to move there. Everyone was completely wrapped in paranoia by now. Kumasawa-san had prepared dinner at one point. But during the time we were discovering the deaths of George Aniki's parents, both the kitchen and the parlor had been left empty. Someone suggested that the food might have been poisoned while we were gone. Because of that, we were unable to even touch the food that Kumasawa had taken the trouble to make for us. The manner in which the first 6 were killed was still unknown, but it certainly could have been poison. Certainly that would allow even a single person to carry out the murder of 6 large adults. Furthermore, this idea made it easy to imagine there being only a single culprit, one who'd be afraid of Aunt Nasuhi's rifle. And this was very good for our emotional stability. But the fatigue and hunger were even harsher than we'd imagined. Then, Kumasawa-san made a proposal, and we all went together to the kitchen. There we gathered some canned food and other things that'd be hard to poison to take in with us. All of Kumasawa's efforts to reward us with just a little dinner on this savage day regrettably came to nothing. piled up on the serving cart looked just a little sad. We all started climbing the stairs, and Natsuhi was in the lead, warily stared into darkness with both eyes in the barrel of the gun. Once we dragged ourselves up to the 3rd floor, just as Aunt Natsuhi warned us of beforehand. There was a mixture of a chemical smell and a sickly sweet aroma, a stench hanging in the air that felt like it was eating into our heads. Ugh. I see, this kind of stench would probably give you a headache if you were shut in with it for a whole night. I know it's a little late, but I'm with Jessica. It felt like the stench was floating out from this magnificent door. It was the door to the forbidden study, which should defend against any who would enter. While Genji-san unlocked the door, Maria stared at the door and the doorknob with great interest. Ugh. Incredible door. It looks old and strict, like it'd stop any jokes cold. A perfect door for grandfather's study. The power to ward off spiritual menaces is strong here. Beatrice probably couldn't open this door. Oh? What does that mean? Maria pointed at the doorknob. A scorpion crest. No, a design like a magic circle arranged around a scorpion was inscribed there. That design. That's right. Isn't it just like those keychain charms Maria gave Jessica and me yesterday? The 5th magic circle of Mars is a strong ward against magic. Additionally, this magic circle was very diligently constructed and is full of power. Such a magic circle can be quite troublesome to beings of magic like Beatrice. Isn't that comforting? Are you saying we can escape even Beatrice's clutches in this room? Our little witch here sure is reliable. Then how did Beatrice get grandfather out? Just as Badler reasoned, Beatrice can't go inside. However, she has both magic and familiars. Using them, she might have been able to get grandfather to leave the study of his own accord. I've read about that in manga. I've seen a bunch of scenes where vampires were frightened of crosses so they couldn't get close. But their familiars were just fine, so they made their familiars attack. Those scorpion key charms I gave you yesterday also had the 5th magic circle of Mars on them. The power dwelling within them was weak, but they should be enough to protect you until we leave the island. Although, it sounds like you've lost yours, right? Scorpion keychain charms? Yeah, the charm I gave you yesterday was something I got from Maria. I heard it would repel magic if you put it on your doorknob, and at the time, I thought maybe it'd be better if you had it. Is that so? I thought it was an odd thing for you to be carrying around. And Natsuhi put that on her doorknob? Yes. Last night after hearing about it from Jessica, I hung it from the doorknob on the inside of my door. Then Natsuhi, you're really fortunate. If you did that, Beatrice probably couldn't even lay a finger on you yesterday. I think Beatrice must have been really annoyed. Beatrice? Annoyed? Couldn't lay one finger? Natsuhi thought back on that eerie scribble she'd seen that morning, as though someone had been tearing at the outside of her door with blood-soaked hands, and gasped in surprise. Could it be that this witch who called herself Beatrice tried to enter through the door? But the magic-repelling charm had been hanging from the inside, so she couldn't break through the door. So she was annoyed, so she scratched at it? Quit it, don't talk like that. Witches don't exist. The culprit does. And they're human, just like us. If you need proof, why don't we dice her up and see if her blood's red? Oy, ay, ay, ay. How could you do that to Kanum-kun? Click. Genji unlocked the door. 8 people entered Kinzo's study. Alright, I think that's the perfect place to stop. We're definitely getting close to the end of the chapter, though who knows how much longer that means. Plot-wise, it makes sense that we're getting close, but who knows how much will happen between now and whatever will occur. Alrighty. What an exciting stream for this one. No kidding. Things are definitely cooking. Damn, I was looking at the saves. We started this game around May 25th, so it's taken almost a month to finish chapter 1. We've been playing a couple days a week, but only for 3 hours at a time, so not especially long for this kind of game, but pretty decent. Alrighty, so yes, I will... How many chapters are there? 4. For the question arc. Then there's the answer arcs. So assume 4 more at least. So like 8? Ryukishi games are long. Very long. Because this is back when he divided things up into question and answer arcs. Because he was selling things at like Comiket. So the first game is gonna be all questions, very little answers, and then, you know, the second half will wrap everything up. From what I glanced at, some of the chapters are shorter than others, obviously. Same thing with Higurashi, so should it? We will see how it goes. But for tomorrow, we are playing some Rune Factory. We're taking a break from the murders. Oh, sorry, no. Tomorrow is Yumiya, and then Thursday is Rune Factory. Close enough. And then we're gonna have our anime preview night, and then it's Unite and Fight. We'll be back for UMINEKO on Sunday. Because there's a break in between the Unite and Fight prelims and finals, so we can play some UMINEKO. Alrighty, that's gonna be it for me then. We'll see. I've learned better than to guess whether or not it's gonna be the last stream or not, but based on the story, we can infer that things are winding down, because I mean, there's only 8 people left. Let's see here. Barry's doing Voop chat, which is interesting. I heard that's the equivalent of like, what is it? Chat roulette or whatever it is. Where you just log in and it randomly connects you with other people. That's interesting. But I will send you guys to... Let's see here. Who do we got? So many people playing Zeldas. Lobotomy Bunny is playing Ocarina of Time. That seems like a good one. So I will send you guys off to her. We haven't rated her in a bit. Alrighty, here we go. Here is a raid. And here is Discord. If we've got any lurkers who want to keep up with us when we're not streaming, I will see you guys tomorrow for some Yumiya. But for now, that's going to be it for me. So, if it's daytime where you are, have a wonderful rest of your day. And if it's nighttime, have a great rest when you head on off to bed. Until next time, take care of yourself. Wash your face. Brush your teeth, eat good food, and I will I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. It just hit me. We spun the chessboard around 6 times, and 6 people died today. No, 3 more died today, but still, yikes. What a coincidence. Okay, bye!